are officially here at the Rik Lei Studios, and today I have an awesome project. It's very near and dear and special to me. My dad contracted me on a commission for a specialty item for my mother. They are going to be married for 40 years. That's a major milestone. So for today, we are going to sort of be recreating her original engagement ring, which is exciting because now I get to be the one that's on the bench to create it for her. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to be starting with specific materials. We're going to be starting with 14 gauge yellow gold wire. Now the 14 gauge is basically just the thickness of the band that we'll be making. And then we have these beautiful aquamarine marquise. Love these. These are so pretty. And then we have the setting that we actually I'm going to be putting it into is a floral print. It's actually probably better if I put it right there for you. And that will be holding our aquamarine. And then to complement it, we have 4 beautiful diamonds that will be on both sides in regular yellow gold settings as well. So the way that I'm going to be doing the band is actually going to be in a V shape, which is a little bit different, which actually I have. Let me pan out a little bit. This is the concept that we're going to be doing. We're going to be building on the concept of this. And then we're going to have the marquise and then the diamonds on the side. So this is what we're going to be working on. I'm really excited. This was my tester piece the other day. So yeah, so what I'm going to do first is I'm going to actually anneal this piece. Annealing it will actually get the temperature for the metal to be a little bit more pliable so that once I'm actually forming the ring, it'll kind of go around a lot easier rather than trying to force it. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start annealing our piece. So bear with me so I can get everything situated. There we go. Temper it. Alright. So we're going to get a nice size flame. Again, we're just warming up the metal. So I'm just going to kind of like go up and back so that it's an equal amount of heat that's being applied to the metal. And you'll start seeing, once you start seeing like a rainbowish color, which we're getting to, then we pretty much know that it's annealed. Of course I have on my safeties, because they're important. Alright. So we got that piece. We're going to let that cool off a bit, just because it is a little bit hot. Not a little bit, it's actually a lot hot. I burnt myself plenty of time, and it's not fun because it leaves indentations on your fingers. So we'll let that cool off for a bit, and then next we'll start forming the ring. As you can see, we're working towards the V shape. What I'm going to be doing is actually flattening this tip. That way when we solder it, it's a perfect smooth solder and then there's no gaps in between the two. So I'm just going to use a needle nose file just to kind of flatten it out. Again, you want to get it as congruent and as tight as possible. You don't want any seams because soldering the seams is never really possible, or it is, but it's actually pain. Alright, so I'm going to go for more flames. As you can see, we're starting to get a flat surface. A little bit more, and then we'll go ahead and go to. Alright, now we look good to solder. Pull together. Alright, so now I have some already cut up yellow gold solder bits. Just gonna put a couple up here. Sometimes they get away from me while I'm soldering, and it's more of a pain to stop the torch and start back all over again, so better safe than sorry. Again, put your safety goggles on and your masks, which we should be used to right about now. Alright. Now what we're going to do is similar to what we did earlier with heating it up, but you want to kind of make it so that all of it's getting, and I'm going to put a little bit of flux, which actually helps from it tarnishing while it anneals. I'm going to try and do both sides that way. You don't want to keep it on too long either because you don't want to melt the metal. I'm starting to anneal. I'm going to go to the other side. Make sure that it's all the way. Some of the sides this side is too high. Let's get that back up. Pickle's just a solution basically that helps it to not tarnish. It also helps us when it gets some of the oxidation off once we've already applied heat to it. So once you put it in, the pickle is pretty much cooled off at that point. As you can see, it's not all the way gold anymore, but some of that'll all come off once it's polished. So now we can start forming the ring. You do want to make sure that it is where we want it to be, and if not, then we can adjust it. Now would be the time to adjust it. Alright, so that's still good. We still got a good form, and then this is the fun part. This is when we start creating the V. I'm going to actually sauce the rest of this off that we don't need, and then we'll polish this down, and then we'll form the V. Now with my saw, I currently have a 1 bit, I think, on it. And this I'm just going to cut a little bit higher as we form it. Now when you're sawing, you're actually letting the saw pretty much do all the work. You're just letting your hand gently. You don't want to apply too much pressure because then the blades will start snapping, and then you gotta keep that. Those are good for resizing rings, and then making rings obviously too. This can actually be hammered down to make it flatter. There's a lot of different things you can do with these type of pieces. So I'm going to kind of file this down just a little bit. Sanding disc. Put my mask back on because I've definitely gotten metal in my eyes before, and I've definitely breathed it in, so you learn from your lessons. I definitely want to be a jeweler for many years, so gotta keep my eyes. I may go back in with a little bit of solder just to seal that up a little bit more, because I do see, well, I'm going to see how the sanding works first. Alright, so this is just the sanding roll basically. This does the same thing, but it's a little bit less abrasive. But it definitely helps to be able to get curvage better. Because the disc does a good job by narrowing it all down, but now you can kind of shape it a little bit better. And with the polishing, you're actually starting to see the cracks, or that little bit of the gap that was there. It's starting to go away, so we probably don't have to solder again. want to try and eliminate as much soldering as possible because we do have quite a few head settings that we have to put over in the corner, so I don't want this to be completely consumed with solder. As you can see in the light, how it's starting to form into a V. I was really excited about this custom, not only because it's for my mom, but because my absolute favorite style and cut out of a stone is a marquise. So this is definitely an exciting project. Alright. So you remember what it started with. It looked just about like this when we started, but more round. And now we have it formulated into a ring that's going to turn into a V. So next I'm going to basically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to resize it. Make sure I got it where I want it to be. Just about there. Okay, so now I'm going to mark where, basically this is the ring size. So now I want to mark how far down I actually want the V to begin. That way it still fits properly. And in the meantime, I'm going to get our setting out to make sure that we also have enough room, which we do. It's important to definitely measure that out ahead of time, because if not, once you start reforming them, for instance with the one that I showed you guys earlier on here, I started with a 12.5 and it was perfect, and then I wanted to bring it down a little bit more, so when I resized it, it became more oval than it did actually like V-shaped. So that's what I want to avoid this time. That's why I practiced on this before. Because as we know, gold is not cheap. So, alright. So I'm going to mark that. I just use Sharpie fine print because it'll come off in polishing anyway. So this is about where I'll start. Forming the V. You want to make sure that that's congruent, because if not, you'll have a odd shape. Alright, so now I'm going to take this off. Now the good thing is, this is a little bit more capable, so if I did have to make this a little bit larger, I can kind of tap it up a little bit with my hammer, but we're going to hope that that doesn't come. Alright, so this is basically like one of the best edges you can do. This is my pegboard, my sawing pegboard, but it also is good for a lot of things. So I'm going to actually use a rawhide hammer, which is a lot less intrusive because you don't really want to do metal, because then it'll start actually leaving imprints. But with the rawhide, it's really lightweight, but it still gives enough pressure. Alright, here we go. Make sure it's straight. That's what we wanted. Second time's a charm. So it still may be a little bit hot, so I'm going to put it back in. That way we can keep messing with it a little bit. Alright. So that's kind of like how it's going to be once we put the ring and everything. Once we put this on there. Solder that, and then we'll solder the diamonds on, and then we'll set it. Just wanted to kind of make sure that it's not angled too much, because I'm noticing that the back part was a little bit, there we go, that's what I wanted. I wanted this to hug this just as much as this is hugging it, because this was out a little bit, so it was making it oblong, and that's not what we want. Alright. That's what I wanted it to do. I wanted it to be almost like you can, the metal's seated in a way. Now comes the real fun part. Now this is called a helping hand or a third hand, which is actually a necessity, because a lot of times when you're working with pieces, it's hard to kind of, when you only have two hands, so the third hand is like super helpful. So these are all the pieces that to be soldering on, but we're making sure that we solder these on prior to us setting the stone, because when you use certain stones, diamonds really won't get burnt unless you put excruciating heat to it. Now again, diamonds will, moissanite they can crack, CZs they can crack, but when you're looking at the hardness of a stone, you have to be very careful with how much heat you're putting to it. So that's why I make sure that I'm doing my settings prior. I'm soldering my settings on prior to actually setting the stone. So I'm just going to clean this piece up just a little bit more before I solder. That way we have smooth. You don't have to worry about the tool marks, because that'll all go away with a final buff. The thing I like about it is it brings its natural color back. I like to see that before I start setting stuff, just because I like to keep a clean piece. Also, I like this piece because it doesn't flatten when you're sanding versus when I'm using my actual files. My files will give a straight, so you'll just end up with something square or rather than round. But since we're working with round, I want to keep it as round as possible, because that form is very hard to get back unless you use my new rolling mill, my new tool, my new jewel tool. Okay. So that's pretty clean. Pretty much how this is going to go in the center. These can go either on the side, like these would have to either go upright like here. Alright, so this makes things a lot easier, because now I can actually hold my piece. Right on top, or I can go to the side. Doesn't look like it's. Try to keep all my pieces separate, because these little pieces are used and we can melt these. So I like to take footage myself. Now see, the jewelers that I learned from, most of them all wear magnifiers, but I remember one jeweler specifically said to me, they said, as long as you don't need the magnifiers, go as long as possible, because these, after a while, even though it's really great to see it magnified and in full, it'll definitely mess with your eyes. And since I'm a young jeweler, I don't want any of that to take place early on. Alright, so that's about where I want it to go. Alright, got a couple ready to go. Alright, let's go. Ain't nothing to it but to do it. Just want to give God the glory through it all, because I definitely used to move on being afraid and, oh, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it. I don't know if I'm going to be able to this. But through consistency of my work all the time, I definitely have a better sense, and I can definitely be grateful for the fact that God's given me the ability to trust Him and just let my hands move how my hands should move, instead of being afraid, because that's when confusion comes and doubt. So again, I'm playing flux. Now this is when my third hand will come into play, because as you can see, and I really need more than one set of 3 hands. One side. Ooh, and it's on perfectly straight. Look at that. Oh. Try to play with you, man. I'm trying to get it right down in here, because that's where the other one is soldered. I think we got it. I'm going to try and go from different angles, because I don't want this side to fall off now, since that's soldered. Alright, and we're good to go. I'm just going to put this in the pickle real quick, just to see if we need any, change anything around, resolder anything. That thing's starting to look really good. You ever look at work and you're actually quite impressed with yourself? Ooh. I'm impressed, because this is stuff that I used to watch top jewelers do at my old job. And it's like, what? Now I'm in my own studio doing the same exact thing for people that I love. Now's the real fun part. come to the completion of the ring. And our last and final step is to clean and polish, steam, and get it on its way.